I want to continue watching the bears. So whether you watch these bears from your home in Tampa, Florida, or your office in New Delhi, it's no easy feat to bring these live streaming images from here to you there. And as the largest live streaming nature cam network in the world, Explore is the master of that. We can't just say, beam me up, Scotty. There's a team that helps us do that, from bringing you gorillas in the Congo to polar bears in Manitoba, Canada, to elephants and giraffes and lions in South Africa, to bald eagles in Iowa. Explore magicians make that happen. At least I think of them as magicians. So good day, everyone. I am Katmai Ranger Naomi Boak, and I am here on the lower river of the Brooks River behind me, and you see Dumpling Mountain behind that. And today we talk tech. And joining me are the Wizards of Oz of Explore.org, Candice Rusch, who is here with me actually in Brooks Camp, and she is the director of new media at Explore. And from his undisclosed location in the lower 48, we have Joe Pifer, who is head of field operations for Explore.org. And welcome to both of you. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, Naomi.
And Candice.
Hi. Hey.
It is so good to have you actually here with me, Candice.
This is really surreal for me. And if the bugs are always like this when you're doing a live chat, I commend your all abilities to stay like really stoic. Well, it's intense.
Well, occasionally you see me going like this. That's
just
why.
Like twitching like bugs. They probably think I'm crazy.
So before we get into the meat of this, I have to ask you, Candice. So you have been watching the bears from the control room, from the control center. What is it like to be here in person?
It's really surreal for me because I don't, and as like Brian, who's managing this one today, we don't get to watch the cameras purely for entertainment, right? We're always watching the cameras for audio quality and network quality, and we're bouncing between cameras and trying to do quality control on all of them at the same time. And so it's always just a little bit, it's an exercise in making sure the stream is good, not so much being able to like just sit back and watch them. So being here, and I'm just like, well, the live bears aren't going to buffer. The live bears aren't going to start to get choppy. I can just stand on the falls and watch them. So that's kind of liberating for me. And it's also, I don't know, it's weird seeing something that you've watched forever and then it's like right in front of you. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So great to have you here. So let's begin to talk about what it takes. And let's start by showing you where the Brooks River is and how remote it actually is. So Brooks Camp is about 320 miles southwest of Anchorage. And there you see the Brooks River, and Brooks Falls bisects the river. And that's where we have the falls cams. The river is about 1.5 miles long between Naknek Lake and Lake Brooks. It flows downstream from the Lake Brooks to Naknek Lake. And then we have to get that signal from Brooks Falls to King Salmon, and from King Salmon, that signal goes out to Explore and out to the world to you. So this is quite a feat. And let's show you where the cameras are along the Brooks River. So here you see, and we have 2 cameras at Brooks Falls. We have a plane going overhead. We have the Riffles cam at the Riffles platform, and downstream where we are, let the plane go by. Okay, so downstream where we are on the bridge, we're at the lower river platform where there's another camera. There's a camera across from us, and then River Watch and the lower river east camera. There's also an underwater camera on the bridge, which I know needs cleaning. We'll get to it. And there's a camera on Dumpling Mountain. So that's a lot of camera. That's a lot of messages to bring to people. So I'm going to begin with you, Joe. And so, what kind of cameras do you use here? And there must have been some kind of evolution over the years since this started. And I know you made a major upgrade this year.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a a mix of different cameras that we've had success with, using in the field at other sites. So, you know, but for the most part, they're IP cameras. They're security cameras. They're just really, really high quality security cameras as opposed to, say, broadcast cameras. Um, as time goes by and technology gets smarter and faster and smaller, the security industry is essentially, the image quality is catching up with broadcast type quality. So, you know, let me think. The Lower River ones, that was 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago at this point. This is the third season with those cameras. They are high quality cameras, but the biggest upgrade I did this year was the 4K camera at the Falls High, basically the main camera, the most popular camera. And then basically just cleaned everything else up, kind of gave the underwater camera a refurb as well as riffles. And then we did install a new camera at the Dumpling Mountain. But I guess the most I'll say there is just very high grade security cameras that we're essentially using them for broadcast purposes.
So, if any of the bears steal anything, we'll know.
Yes.
We'll know, we'll have it
Yeah.
recorded, and we'll be able to tell the cops where to find them too.
Good, good. Just wanted to know that. So cameras are part of it, but another thing that we really need is internet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what in Candice for you? What kind of internet speed? I mean, you guys at home, have internet speed that we couldn't even dream of.
Yeah.
And what are we operating with? And there's another thing attached to that called bandwidth.
Yep.
So if you can talk a little bit about internet and bandwidth and the miracles that you
Yeah.
make happen with limited resources.
Yeah, when most people talk about internet speeds, they're talking about bandwidth. They're pretty synonymous, although one is just a little bit more techy than the other. Katmai is working on lightning fast, 20 megabits a second upload speed, which is upgraded last year from the 17 megs that it was forever. And that has to function for all 8 of our cameras and this live chat and anything you need to do to check in and upload media and email and all the rest of it. So for all of the work you have to do and all of our stuff, we have 20 megabits a second. Each camera on the lowest end of our broadcast, they have 2 megabits a second upload. But we prefer for a nice quality stream to be at 4, which I think we're only at Brooks Falls High right now.
For comparison, what kind of megabits per second are most people working with at home?
Mine, I have 500 megs up and down at my house. Most people have, I think like a 50 by 100, right? That's maybe the lowest that like a home. So 50 upload, 100 download. Download speeds tend to be faster than upload speeds. Yeah, so the only people who would have speeds like this are people who are similarly remote, and it's difficult to get internet to their places in the woods. But if you're in anything suburban or urban, you probably could very easily get 500. Even gigabyte internet's becoming very accessible these days, which is wild. So we do a lot with very little.
Yeah, when I do a speed test check, and if I have 1.7 megabytes per second, it's like, oh great, we can do a broadcast. This is terrific.
Yeah, the lowest we could broadcast out would be 1 megabit a second, and that's when it gets extremely pixelated, but we can get it out.
Yeah. So another thing that we need out here is power. There are no roads out here. We don't have, power connections to even the small town of King Salmon. We have some generators out here, but we also occasionally have sun. Not right now.
We did.
But we did have sun. But this is kind of typical. We have a little sun. We have some clouds. You can see clouds on Dumpling. So, Joe, can you explain how we power things here?
Well, primarily we pray for sun. We have got solar panels basically directly behind where Naomi was standing there is the dumpling temp repeater site. And so that picture right there, that we've got a hybrid of solar, wind, and then inside of that black box right there, there's basically a small backup generator. So we're kind of throwing everything at these systems, and that we can when it comes to affordable, small off-grid systems, giving the
We cover.
system essentially three different options of how to generate power, and and then just hoping that it lasts for as long as the season lasts.
So Joe, I'm going to stop for a second because it is raining here and I want to cover our audio receiver with a little bit of plastic so we can still communicate. So you can continue talking. So Joe, we had a few problems this year. We lost power. Can you explain a bit about why that happened?
Well, sure. If you look at that mountain directly behind you and how it's completely socked in, that would be why. That picture right there is what it should look like with that tiny little shiny thing. That's the repeater site actually getting really good sunlight. So when there are multiple days in a row where it just looks like that, it's just not getting a chance to get any sort of charge. So there's basically a safety feature on the system. It's called a low voltage disconnect that will basically power things down to save the batteries and wait until the sun comes back. And when the sun comes back, it'll fire everything back up and we'll be back online.
Oh,
So
I hear
I'd say blame it on the sun.
Blame it on the sun. Well, that'll get us in trouble with the guy upstairs. We may have a piece of equipment coming out here that might change things. I mean, that gets into my question about how do you weatherproof things here?
Oh,
The weather's pretty rough. It's got to survive a winter.
Yeah, there's different ratings for equipment called like IP ratings, IP66 or IP67. So basically anything we're putting out there is going to be at a minimum of IP66 rated, meaning it's water sealed and you can technically shoot it with water jets, and like those Pelican cases right there, they're IP66 rated Pelican cases. Just doing your due diligence, really, if you're running a cable, putting it inside of conduit, making sure you've got every little tiny gap, hole, whatever, filled with something, whether it's rubber or silicone or something. That's pretty much the way you have to do it out there, without a major construction project on top of the mountain. So, whenever we're doing work up there, we're primarily hiking everything up there that we're working with. So we're very limited to our options as far as what material we have, what tools we have, and that kind of thing. And
so
yes.
Can you talk about the installation process a little bit? I know, Brian, I'm skipping around here a little bit, but this follows. If you can talk about the installation process, because you don't just show up here on Alaska Air or some other airline and just say, okay, let's put things in. How does the installation process happen?
Usually it happens with what went wrong last year. And so the planning for it usually starts right around November. And so there's months of planning, logistic planning. How are we getting equipment up there? What are we, how much equipment do we need? How are we getting it either up to the mountain or out to Brooks or, to King Salmon? And then a lot of like pre-configuration. I pre-configure everything. So by the time I get there, it's more just the physical work rather than the kind of the brain work. And then really the typically the most difficult task there is just simply, once we get there, we have to bring the mountain, we have to power up the mountain. And how do we do that? Do we just simply put new batteries in, which is what we did this year? Or do we try to resurrect the batteries that are there, even though it's risky and we may not necessarily be able to do it? So it really depends. A big component of the installation process is planning around what failed last year. As well as if we, getting batteries up to that mountain requires a helicopter, and there's just no way around that. So that's always a big part of the planning too. Right there.
So,
there it is.
Yeah. And you can't just, call an Uber helicopter. You have to file things with the park and get permissions. So there's just so much that goes into it. And Candice, on your end, I know there's a lot that happens in preparation for this installation. What happens on your side?
So once Joe does the Herculean tasks of getting the cameras online, then we go about double checking all the encoder settings, making sure everything is what it needs to be to get out. We have the CamOp team start to configure presets. We color correct. We do days and days and days of bandwidth testing beforehand. I believe 2 years ago, we accidentally made some of that bandwidth testing public. The snapshot icon was live on the site, but the cams weren't. Sorry about that for those of you who got it.
Oh, I'm sure they enjoyed it.
Oh yeah. They had a lovely time with that. So we do lots of bandwidth testing to make sure that we can have the cameras live, we can have the camera controls live, and I can also talk to you at the same time to make sure all of that stuff is locked in. We had a couple hiccups at the beginning of this season, but then we got it all locked in.
Don't say that. It's going to go down again.
No, we're good. We're good
We're good for
Knock
now.
on wood. We've got lots of wood.
I've got wood right here.
Yes. And so once we do all the bandwidth testing, then we make sure that our highlight reels, our VODs are updated.
What's our VOD?
Right. So on the server side, we have it so if a camera goes down, the highlight reel automatically plays, and we do that with Amazon Media Live. And so we update those every year and make sure they're all pointing to the correct spot. For the Brooks Live Chat viewers, I realize you are very familiar with the VOD for this channel. Mike, I'm a huge Bear fan, over and over and over. Sorry about that. We can only update them once a season.
Well, it's really nice to hear from Charlie that he really loves the Bears.
He's a huge Bear fan.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and then we make sure that the YouTube events are set up, and then we can go live out to the public. Yeah.
So we have the preparation, we hear about the equipment, but Joe, how do we get from here to there? What's between us and the rest of the world?
Well, the Dumpling Mountain that's pretty much it. That's the only thing in our way. Yep. We use wireless radios, a plethora of wireless radios throughout the camp. That radio in particular is the receiving end in King Salmon. That it's a 30-mile link that the other end of it is at the top of Dumpling Mountain. That is essentially our backhaul. So that's our main pipe of internet coming in. And from there, we basically divvy out amongst the camp all the other little wireless connections. So the Falls has one, Lower River has one. Within the camp itself, there's, I think, at least 2 different connections there. The wireless stuff at this point is pretty simple and pretty straightforward and very reliable. It's been there. We use it on any remote location that we have, not just Brooks. So, the longest link that we have within the Explore network is about 60 miles. So double the link that's there, and it works like a champ. So if you were another 30 miles out, we would have a solution for that. That's
Don't suggest that.
pretty much it.
Yeah.
There's always a solution.
So, I like to hear that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna write that down.
Yep.
There's always a
Always a
solution.
solution.
Well, you may not
So,
like it, but there's always a solution.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The number of times Joe and I are talking, and he's like, "We can get it done. It's just about what do you want to do to get it done."
right. So, I mean, the last time I had to stand on my head, I just did not appreciate that. So sometimes we have some issues and a kind of those last minute concerns about getting video, and there are different kinds of video issues that we have, particularly here, say at Brooks Falls. Some of the images get pixelated. Can you explain what that's about, Candice?
Yeah. So image quality is a conglomeration of different factors. One of them is bandwidth that we talked about. And generally, the higher your bandwidth, the higher your image quality. But that's not always the case, as you can see on Brooks Falls, because we have 20 megabits out to the whole wide world. But between Brooks Camp and King Salmon, we have 100 megs. So the Brooks Falls,
do?
yeah.
Oh.
But you can't get it's not effective. You can't actually do anything with it. But what we can do, what that has enabled us to do on the Brooks Falls 4K camera is that is currently sending 16 megabits a second to King Salmon and then 4 megs out to the rest of the world. So it's about as high as we can broadcast a camera currently. But as you know, it still pixelates, so bandwidth is not the end-all be-all of image quality. As Joe said, these are still security level cameras, right? This isn't your Nikon, or this isn't a cinema lens, this isn't a cinema camera. These are still security cameras with security camera sensors that are still affected by things like high contrast. So when it's really light, really dark, the camera can have some trouble processing. And then at Brooks Falls, specifically moving water. So really, really fast, anything really fast sometimes will cause pixelation. So in the morning, you'll see the most pixelation when it's high contrast and moving water. You'll notice that the water pixelates the most.
Yeah, it's a lot of information. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not thinking of moving water as a lot of information.
It's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information for
Yeah.
video. It's tons of tiny bits
Yeah.
of information, and it
Yeah.
just really can't handle that
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah. So it does the best it can with what we've got, but it's still not perfect. And I think as Joe said, these cameras are getting smarter and smarter every year. Like these sensors are getting better and better every year. And I think that eventually we'll come to a time when you can get like that true crisp water that you would on some other camera lens. It's just, I don't know, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Personally.
So we know that these cameras are not stationary. And so Candice, you want to talk a bit about how these cameras are operated by that amazing team of cam operators?
We have like 120 volunteer camera operators at Explore, and they're amazing, and I love them all. I actually had the privilege of meeting a camera operator this week. I've never met a cam op in person before off of Slack, which is amazing. And they're truly the lifeblood of what we have at Explore. Without them, and our volunteer moderators as well, our chats would be less fun because they wouldn't be well moderated with all the lovely information they provide, and our cameras wouldn't be moving. They would be on auto tours, right? Our camera operators are logging in virtually from their home to control the cameras from wherever they are, controlling them here at Brooks Camp, and they'll follow the cubs for us and give us beautiful sunrises and sunsets. And they go through some immense training, and they take a test to be able to become a bearcam camera operator that I tried to take this year and failed. Ooh. It is not an easy test, I'll tell you. So they're incredibly skilled and they're incredibly passionate, and we love them a lot.
Yes, we do love our bearcam operators. And when Mike and I do a play-by-play, we couldn't do it without them, because they're looking ahead for us and looking around behind the scenes to see where the best action is. So it's just as much an integral part of how Explore brings all this activity to you as the internet, as the cameras, as the satellite. So I have one, and how do you become a cam op?
Yes, very important. So if you want to become a camera operator, you can email volunteer@explore.org, or if you're on explore.org, you can scroll all the way down to the footer of the page. There's a little link that says volunteer. You can click on that. There's a little form that opens up, and you can apply to become a volunteer, and we'll do the interview and all the rest of what it takes. But anybody who's passionate about the cameras and wants to help We always need more cam ops
Yeah,
and moderators if you want to help there too.
Yeah, and also,
Yeah.
you know, the bear cams, and remember, Explore has so many really, really interesting cams, and so there are a lot of opportunities to help out on that end and be engaged.
Yeah.
I kind of sneak in, listen, you know, sort of watch some of the conversations with cam operators, and so there, it's some great discussions happen there. So, all right, we've talked about today, and so if you're thinking about what could be in the next few years for bringing out the signal to you, how the cams operate, how we interface with the internet. Joe, what does the future hold for us technologically?
Well, you know, the low atmosphere satellite internet providers, I know there's a variety of them. Once they are able to deliver service there, that is going to be a huge game changer, not only for our live cams, but also probably for park operations, for everything. You know, you guys will no longer be off grid. And, you know, for what I do, ultimately what that does there is that eliminates the need for that mountain, which is, that just makes everything a lot easier.
You're not going to blow up the mountain. You're just not going to use it to get the signal out, right?
Or just, yeah, we're going
It'll be
to
our
go
backup
way,
link. Yeah.
way around it. Actually, we're just going to go straight up into space.
Yep.
But,
Up and then down. Yep.
you know, that's one thing that's definitely I'm kind of looking forward to. You know, and then just I'd say one of my focuses probably for next year is going to be the underwater experience and improving that.
Yeah.
You know, we just
Windshield
kind of went
wipers.
with.
Yeah. No, that's
We
part of
could,
it.
what,
Yes.
Yes,
There's a
windshield
couple-
wipers. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's 100% part
Well,
of it. We've talked about that.
the tricky part there is bear proofing that. That's going to be the tricky part. So, you know, I've got a solution for it. It's just a matter of how do you protect it from a bear.
Yeah, how could
That-
we bear proof? Yeah, no, that's a good point.
That's very interesting. We'll have to get our bear biologists in on that.
Yeah.
And so, Candice, when you look at the future of this place, from your perspective, what do you think about?
I would like to see more upgraded cameras. I would like to eventually see all of the cameras at Books Camp be a 4K camera, but I would love one day to actually be able to broadcast the 4K feed. Right now we have to compress it, so it's 4K to King Salmon and then it's 1080 out to YouTube. And I would like to be able to actually broadcast a full quality 4K signal out to you guys. We have the technology. The only thing at this point is bandwidth, and then server costs are a little bit more expensive for 4K. But it's all becoming more and more accessible over the next couple years. So I could see sometime in the near future, like a true quality 4K stream to YouTube.
All sounds
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. I mean, when the cams views and images, and we see all these activities, how often do we think about what it takes to get those amazing images and those bears to us, and all the other live streaming nature cams that Explore does? I don't think we contemplate that Herculean effort, except when it doesn't work,
Right.
which
Yes.
hasn't been too often, now that you've heard what it takes to do that. So I think that it behooves us to think about this incredible team that works so hard and tirelessly to do that, including Brian, who has been a one-man operation today
Yeah.
because he's been abandoned by everybody else.
And for anybody that has been enjoying the increased quality on the Brooks live chats as well, you also have Brian to thank. He makes all the graphics and he preps all the media for us and he does all the intros, and he's really contributed a lot to making these really high quality chats this year.
Yeah, and the cam ops
And the cam ops.
and Mr. Fitz
Always.
and the people at the Park Service who help, and Candace's mom, who's here with us today, keeping the visitors quiet around us so you can hear us. So I'm going to say keep watching the bear cams, explore other cams on Explore, and never stop learning. Thank you for joining us today. Oops. Questions.
Oh, questions. Yeah, we can do questions.
Wait.
Wait.
Oops. Questions. We went over,
Yeah.
so I forgot. You
Yeah.
guys have questions. We're going to
Yeah, we
answer
can go
some.
over. I got nothing else to do today.
Oh, okay. All right.
Give us many
I have some
questions.
things you could do.
Yeah.
All right. All right. You guys, you almost got away with murder. So, okay. All right. Are there bearcam people, i.e. Explore staff, at Katmai regularly?
I wish somebody tell Charlie to send us to Katmai regularly. No, this is actually the first time I've been to Katmai. Joe, you go every year to get it all set up.
I do.
Sometimes twice a year.
This year, twice
This
a year.
year you'll be here again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The answer to that is no. Unfortunately not. We're always asking a lot of favors from Park Service.
Yeah, Park Service is really accommodating to us when we're like, hey, can you clean that camera or hike to the top of a mountain or fix a generator or whatever other nonsense we need from you guys. It's
lots of nonsense.
Yeah.
We get those nonsense requests all the time. God, in the middle of the night. Or I wake up in the morning and Courtney's, could you? And I was like, oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Could Explorer use the satellite internet in the future, such as Starlink? Joe?
Well, the way I'll answer that is I hope so. And we're not really going to know until we actually have a Starlink circuit somewhere and be able to test video going over Starlink. And we're satisfied with it. My hopes are yes, absolutely we can use that. But in reality, I won't believe it until I see it.
Yeah, I think if we're going to test things like Starlink, I'd like to test them at a less tense location. I don't think testing out a new satellite internet at Katmai is the best option. Maybe find a new location that we can have a little bit more leeway with and then see how it goes.
I have a suggestion for a goat cam.
Okay, yeah.
In my home. So
maybe Naomi will let us test
in Connecticut. We want to have a goat cam. So you could absolutely test it there.
Cool.
Okay. All right, another question. Do bears interfere with the cameras or do they ignore them?
You guys can see the answer to this on cam sometimes. They, 3 years ago, Joe, was it? When the floating bridge was still around, a bear ripped the underwater camera off of that. But, for the most part, they ignore them.
They're curious,
well, I think
if there's
I've
something
seen,
there that they can grab, they're gonna try it out.
The low cam, they'll walk right up and lick it.
Oh yeah. Someone's been putting something good on the low cam because they like to look at. The other thing is, last year on the underwater cam, a bear became, everyone's a director. The bear did not like the direction that the cam was going and moved it in another direction and actually enabled us to see the spawning activity.
Yeah.
So thank you, Federico Fellini Bear. It was very good.
Yeah, it was very helpful of him. So did you call in the bears to do that for us this year?
No, but I'll put out a call on my radio.
Okay, cool.
How do you prepare for bear encounters when doing repairs or upgrades? Joe, you can answer that.
Yeah, we try to do it before the bears really show up.
Yeah. And you have rangers as spotters.
Yep. Naomi's usually spotter. She'll yell out, bear, and we'll scramble back up.
Yep.
Okay. I love this. Because it happened.
EFOY. Yeah. How do they know about EFOY?
Wait a second. They can't.
Who told them about the EFOYs?
I gotta read the question. Okay. What happened with the EFOY back in 2014, and can it happen again?
Can it happen again?
Joe.
It did happen
again.
It's always happening. When it doesn't happen, it's a miracle.
What is the EFOY?
They're just. It's a small generator. That it runs on methanol fuel, and its main design purpose is to say be in an RV or a boat or something like that. So, it's when it's up there on the mountain and it's exposed to those temperatures, it's just it fails. It's like if it does survive the year, we were very lucky. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with it, and they're, in my opinion, not the best thing to have in the middle of nowhere. It'd probably be okay if I was always right next to it and I could always give it attention. but
We can build you a tent.
Yeah.
yeah,
We are
it's just
working on
something.
moving away from the EFOIs to like fully
Yeah,
sustainable off-grid systems, because methanol fuel cells in the wilderness, not the best choice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they're just not, robust enough to be in the environment that we're putting them in. Is how I would describe it. Um, so yes, it can absolutely. It's like I said, it's always happening.
Yeah. I
So,
like this one.
so how do the National Park Service and Explore coordinate to make the cams a reality?
We talk a lot. We have, as Joe started, planning starts in November. So the moment Fat Bear weekends, we all take a breather for about a month, and then we get on a call and plan for next year. And then come like January, February, we get another call and plan again. And then during the season, we're always on Slack together. And you and Mike have a weekly call, right?
Yes, Mike and Leon and I have a weekly call to talk about what's coming up this week. And again, a lot of this, I mean, it takes a village
Yeah.
from all sides, and the Conservancy is part of this. They help
Yeah.
out as well. And like in everything Brooks Camp and Katmai, you have to be flexible. And so we have a very dedicated, flexible team in the Park Service, at Explore, and at the Conservancy, and that's how it happens. So, any more questions? Candice, is it your first visit to Brooks, and how is it?
It is my first visit. It's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was surprised at how close together everything is. You see it on the cams, and somehow it seems like it's all very far apart. But it's not. It's like all right here. Like the camp is just right there, and the cams are right next to each other. And then a little ways down the road is the falls, and it's very relaxed. It's a different vibe than most national parks. I think a lot of national parks are like very commercial, and Brooks still sort of has this like family atmosphere where you like sit around the fire together and talk. Like I've not experienced that at a national park before. It's very, very homey, I think.
Yeah, we love this place,
Yeah.
and we love that you get to join us here all the time. And please continue doing this. And this is for real the end. This is our last question. I'll try not to screw up anymore. Thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure having both Candice and Joe with us today, and to the Wizards of Oz of Explore. So see you guys next time, and never stop learning.